Hello everyone. Okay then, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. In this video today, we're going to have a look at the Electoral College. Now, the Americans don't directly elect their president, they do it through this thing called an Electoral College. It was established by the Founding Fathers with the Constitution as a way of perhaps tempering what the public might do in an election. So, rather than myself explaining it, I've got a little video which is going to explain it for me.
The President of the United States. Unfortunately, the U.S. election system isn't that simple. This is electing a U.S. president in plain English. It's easy to imagine every U.S. citizen's vote being counted together on election day, but this is not the case. U.S. elections are not decided by the total or popular vote, but individual states. Let me explain. It starts with your vote. On election day, you'll vote for president and their vice president. You get one choice. Then, all the votes in your state are counted. The candidate with the most statewide votes becomes the candidate your state supports for president. This happens across the country until each state has selected their candidate. We end up with most of the 50 states and the District of Columbia voting to support one candidate each. But there's a problem. We can't elect a president by just counting up the choices of these states. U.S. states are different. Consider this. California has about 36 million people. Kansas has less than 3 million. We need a way for California's choice to have more influence on the election because the state has more people. The question becomes, how do we make sure each state has the right amount of influence on the election? Well, we need a way to account for the population of each state. As an example, let's consider my home state of North Carolina. Like every state, it is divided up into congressional districts that are based on population. North Carolina has 13 districts, California has 53, and Kansas has 4. When it comes to a state's influence on the election, the number of districts matters most. More population equals more districts equals more influence. The influence a state has in the election is measured by the number of electors. This number comes from the number of districts in a state plus the number of U.S. senators, which is always 2. North Carolina has 15 electors, while California has 55. When a candidate wins the voting in a state, they win that state's number of electors. That's why big, populous states can be so important to candidates. Their electors add up quickly, and the number of electors is what really matters. Here's why. If you add up the electors of all 50 states and the District of Columbia, there are 538 in total. The candidate's goal on election day is to win the majority of 538, or 270 electors. Once a candidate wins enough states to reach the 270 majority, they have won the election and become the president-elect. Yay! So, let's recap. Your vote helps your state choose a single candidate. That candidate receives all the electors from your state. The candidate who can win enough states to reach 270 total electors wins the national election and becomes the president-elect. Then, on the following January 20th, the president-elect is sworn in as the next president of the United States. And it all starts with your vote. Make it count. I'm Lee Lefevre, and this has been Electing a U.S. President in Plain English on the Common Craft Show.
Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. So, a little bit irritating, but it does explain fairly well, I think, how the Electoral College works. So, bigger states have got more influence. The least number of electors a state can have is 3, because every state's got at least one congressional district, and every state, no matter the population size, has got 2 US senators. This does lead to some very sparsely populated states actually being overrepresented on the Electoral College compared to really big states like California. But the whole idea of the Electoral College was to try and create some kind of balancing out between the states. When they wrote the Constitution, Virginia was the big state, but obviously today it is California. Okay, every 10 years when there's a census, obviously they measure the population and some of the electors change from state to state. So Florida, for example, in year 2000 had 25 Electoral College votes. Today's got 29. It's estimated that California might lose one next time round and Arizona might gain one. So every 10 years there's a slight redistribution of these things. But the basics of how you elect a US president is basically winner takes all in every state apart from Maine and Nebraska. So if you get one more vote than your nearest rival in every US state or any US state, you'll win all the Electoral College votes. So, for example, in year 2000, out of 8 million voters, George Bush got 537 more votes than Democrat Al Gore. Therefore, George W. Bush gained all what was then the 25 Electoral College votes for Florida. So it's winner take all in every single state, which of course then leads to the problems you have in the UK at a constituency level. You know, you get some states, but like our constituencies, which are very safe. Therefore, no campaigning takes place in those states, and you get a handful of states, which you've done previously on these states which change the so-called swing states. Okay, now Maine and Nebraska, I'll very quickly explain what happens in these two states, because the Constitution doesn't state how the states choose their electors. So most states do winner take all, but there's nothing constitutionally to say for California to say, you know what, we're going to do it proportionally next time. And so we're going to give, you know, if the Democrats get 60% of the vote in California, they can have 60% of the electors and the Republicans have 40%. There's nothing in the Constitution to stop that from happening. It just doesn't happen. The only states which do it slightly differently is Maine and Nebraska. Now, if we take these two states, we'll look at Maine. What they do, Maine has got 4 electoral college votes. It's got 2 congressional districts and 2 senators. Now, if a party wins the popular vote in Maine, let's say that I get 52% of the vote across Maine, I get most of my votes in one of the congressional districts, so I get 60% in Congressional District 1, but in Congressional District 2 I only get 48% of the vote and my opponent gets more. What they do is that 3 electoral college votes go to me because I won one congressional district and I won the state kind of vote as well. I got the popular vote of the state, but they'll give one of the votes to the other candidate who won one of the congressional districts, but he didn't win across the entire state. So Donald Trump, for example, in 2016 gained one of Maine's congressional votes because I think it's Congressional District 2, which is a bit more Republican than Congressional District 1, which Donald Trump managed to win. The same happened in Nebraska as well. Nebraska is quite a heavily Republican state, but there is one big city in Nebraska. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Anyway, it's got 4 or 5 electoral college votes in Nebraska. They've never split their votes before, but in 2008 Obama managed to win the big town or city in Nebraska, so they had to give one of the electoral college votes to Obama. The Republicans who actually run the state did suggest they might change the rules next time, so they go for winner takes all, but they actually never have done. Okay, so Maine and Nebraska are a little bit different. That's sometimes called the Congressional System. So you ever see the term the Congressional District for the Electoral College? It's meaning the Maine and Nebraska system. Okay, so what I'd like to do in your booklet is this bit of work on the Electoral College. So in your work booklet, if you do this page here, the Electoral College, why the founding fathers established it, and it's just explain how it all works. Okay. You've then got, you've also gone here, what happens if no one gets 270? Again, find out about that. And also, what major flaw was there in 2016 and the year 2000 with the Electoral College? Again, so you can find out what that major flaw was in those 2 election years. Okay, once you've done that, both the textbooks, the Jenkins textbook and also the Bennett textbook, do quite a good job on this, of discussing what are the main disadvantages or criticisms or weaknesses of the Electoral College, and what are the main advantages or strengths of having the Electoral College in place. So again, if you use the textbook, you'll be able to get out the information to fit onto that table. Again, just be thinking as you do it about if this was an exam question, evaluate the view that the Electoral College is no longer fit for purpose, or something like that. And what you might want to do is put your criticisms and the advantages kind of opposite each other on that table, so you've got kind of your natural fors and against. Also add in some nice examples as well, which again you can use in the exam. Okay, I think this bit about advantages and disadvantages of these different reforms, I might do that in a separate little video. Okay, so if you get all those bits done, that'd be great. Again, make sure you keep looking at these different elections of American presidents on Teams. There is a video, there's a link, to a CNN documentary. It's about an hour and a half long, on the Clinton George H.W. Bush campaign, which is really, really interesting. There's a really good one about the 1976 election as well, which is well worth watching. There's also one, it's only about 50 minutes long, about the endless campaign of 2000, about all the problems they had in Florida that election. So again, you know, on a rainy day or whatever of the next week or so, I really suggest you have a look at them. Because what we're going to do later in this week is just finish off the Electoral College, then we're going to have a look at, you know, why the different candidates win at different elections, etc., etc. Okay, any problems or issues, let me know, but hopefully that is relatively straightforward for you all.